Now punishes the blast on that hit. Diving save hard as he flashes across. Briere sends up Carl, side of the net, deflected, score! Briere moving in, stops, cuts to the middle, still has the shot! Score! Here's Hughes giving it across. Oh, what a save! Save by Maher! Short-handed mid! He scores! Up top, cruising is Provorov. He scores! Ivan Provorov!
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fired Up Podcast. I am your host, Amedeo and Grassia, along with my partner, Chris Maher. As always, we are live streaming on TTP Sports, Flyers Fan Mania 93, and the Painted Lines, like we always do. If you can't tune into the live stream, it will always be on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts at. And we got some special news for you. I'm going to pull up the share screen right here. So we got the Chris revealing his new Flyers tattoo on his arm, and the Flyers surprisingly retweeted it, and it's got a lot of follows. So Chris, why don't you explain it to the nice people listening today?
Yeah. So I've kind of had to keep this under wraps for a while. It's actually a two-parter, so it's going to be the logo is the first part, and then there's actually a second part that I'm going to get soon. These are some of the pictures where I look like I just went through hell, because it essentially was, because I know you probably think it's crazy that it was around 10 hours, and it wasn't exactly 10 hours. That's why I say it's about 10 hours, because it was two sessions. The first session, the appointment was at 12:30. I didn't necessarily get there. I got there on time. Artist was a little late, so it was kind of like, maybe around like 5.5 hours for that, just because we started later. And I had to go a second time because majority of that part on my bicep is scar tissue. So it's like stretch marks, and the ink didn't necessarily stay in the first time. So he kind of had to continuously go over it and go over it and go over it again. That's why it took so long, because it wasn't staying. So he basically was like, the needle was cutting, but the ink wasn't staying in. So that's why it kind of took a while. So I had to go get it done. He finished as much up as he could the first day, waited a couple weeks for it to heal, and then I went back today for like another 2.5 hours or so, and that kind of finished it up. So it, overall, I probably spent 10 hours in there, but the actual ink itself wasn't that. So anyway, I seriously don't really care about the way I even said it. Listen, I personally love it. I know there's a lot of hate that's on the tweet, and I knew that would happen because when 1.5 million people, not all of them are going to be nice. So you always kind of get that stuff. I personally, if it's, and listen, I don't mean this in any sort of way, but I frankly don't give a fuck what other people think about it. It's on my arm. I paid for it. It's going to be on my arm for the rest of my life. And frankly, I could care less what you have to say about it. I thought it was a great job. I thought Z was fantastic at Pop's Tattoo. It's on Frankfurt and Ron if you want to check it out. They do great stuff. But again, it was just because of where I decided to put it on my arm was why it took so long, and things like that. It was nothing against the artist or the shop itself. So again, frankly, I could care less what other people think. But it is what it is, and I kind of figured you get that anyway. So, but seriously, all in all, that literally made my night. The Flyers tweeted that out. I didn't think that would happen. It was like I didn't even realize it until like 20 minutes after I checked my phone. I had like 50 notifications. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm scrolling through, and I see it, and like the Flyers are on there. Like, oh my god! I click it, I'm like, that's not the Flyers. There's no way. And then I click it again. I'm like, holy shit! So yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, again. Thanks for Amedeo. Thank you for letting me explain it, because I wanted to, and yeah, it was a fun day, and as you could probably tell by the pictures, I was only in a little bit of pain. But
Only a little bit.
Yeah, it was like some of the you know what it feels like? It feels like someone's dragging a thumbtack that was just taken out of like hot lava or like molten lava and just dragging it across your skin. It doesn't. I didn't think it would hurt. And I know that sounds weird because it's like, you know what I mean? It'd be like, my dad was like, yeah, it's going to hurt. I'm like, probably, but not as bad. And then he was telling me, the artist before, he's like, it's going to hurt. He's like, it's all nerves there. And he's like, and he was kind of explaining everything. And I'm like, yeah, probably. I didn't think it would hurt that bad. And it was, it was rough. But
once you're sitting in the seat, you're just like, oh my God, I regret
because
this.
once they start, you can't. You know, like they got to finish. So it's like,
yeah.
And I'm sitting there the first 12 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck did I just get myself into? You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there. I'm like, holy shit. But yeah.
Well, I'm sure after like the first couple of hours, you got used to the feeling at that point.
I mean, yeah, that was the thing. I mean, like, and it's weird because people are probably like, you know, well, what hurt the most? I'm like, all of it. Like, none of it felt good. Like, the only time that it didn't necessarily hurt was. Honestly, it was probably the orange. That didn't hurt that much. But what hurt the most was the black because it's so much. And it's
because there was so much of it.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. There's so much black on this thing. And you have to constantly go over it like 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So it's like it took a lot. So again, it took a while, and once he started, yeah, I know. I mean, once he started, I was like, it is what it is. But it was essentially what it was going to be. The 2 parts was this was on this side, and this was on this side. Well, that sure as shit is not happening now. I'm gonna have to figure out a different spot to put the second one. But all in all, it is what it is, and I love it. So that's all that matters.
You got Ed telling Chris told you it was going to hurt.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. But yeah. I personally like it.
Today we were walking out, and my dad's like, not to say I told you so, but you know,
I told you so.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, did you? Yeah, thanks, Dad.
Yeah, I think it's a good tattoo, and honestly, that should be the thought process that you have when people are trying to comment on things. You shouldn't give a hell what people think about it. Yeah. That's honestly
it's funny. One of the comments is actually the one season ticket holder. At least I think he was season ticket holder. Eric, he put a picture of his head on here because if you've seen him, I know a lot of people have probably seen him at games. He's got the Flyers logo on the side of his head with like, it's got like Flyers written in like a certain word writing on the side, kind of above it. And he just put the picture and he put, that's cute. I was like, that is so funny. So I liked it and I gave it a retweet and everything. That was funny.
If you thought the arm was painful, I'm sure the head was painful.
Oh my God. I can only imagine what the hell he went through.
So yeah, that's a nice story there from Chris, and an excellent tattoo if I do say so myself. But let's get into some Flyers talk, because yesterday was a pretty important day for Flyers and other teams that did not make the playoffs, as the draft lottery did recap yesterday. Pretty boring draft lottery, which I am perfectly fine with. I don't want any of the teams that we dislike to jump up into the draft lottery into that first or second overall pick. And this was the first lottery with some of the new rules implemented, since teams could only jump into the first or the second overall pick instead of the top 3. So if we look at the draft lottery, so Buffalo won the draft lottery, and Seattle technically was the only team to move up in the draft lottery, which was actually surprising. And I thought other teams were going to, but hey, like I said, I am perfectly fine with no other team moving up in the draft lottery. That's just my personal opinion. And if I can, even though I should have had this up earlier, but it was
Jesus, you're slacking. What the hell?
I am look, I just came back from vacation. My head is still scrambled.
I'm sure. How was it?
It was a really good vacation, actually. Yeah. Really, really good. Really, really good. Yeah, if we look at I'll get into. Yes, I was at a Dodgers game actually, and I saw Albert Pujols get robbed of a walk-off home run.
I remember waking up the next morning. I see a text from Amedeo at like 2 a.m. I'm like, why is he texting me at 2 a.m? I'm like,
you gotta forget him in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
so it's like 11 o'clock
okay.
at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking like 2 a.m. Like, why is this guy up so late? I'm like, oh, he's in LA. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun game to watch, actually. Much more entertaining than the Phillies baseball that we have currently right now. Even though the Phillies won like 17-3 the other day, but still the Phillies suck.
Yeah, they needed that.
And that's where I'm going to leave off with the Phillies. So if we look at the NHL draft lottery currently, With the first overall pick, the Buffalo Sabres are in the first overall pick of the NHL draft. The Seattle Kraken, they were the only team to move up to the second overall pick. They originally had the third, but they get the second overall pick. Anaheim moves down one slot to the third overall pick. New Jersey, and basically, when you look at the odds, it's basically the same exact sheet. New Jersey Devils, they have the fourth overall pick. Columbus Blue Jackets, they get the fifth. Detroit Red Wings, they get the sixth. San Jose Sharks get the seventh overall pick. Los Angeles Kings get the eighth overall pick. Vancouver Canucks get the ninth overall pick. The Ottawa Senators get the 10th overall pick. The Chicago Blackhawks get the 12th overall pick. Well, they get the 11th overall pick, actually, because Arizona's pick was forfeited because of their whole draft scandal with the combine and everything. So Calgary, they move up technically. They get the 12th pick. The Flyers have the 13th overall pick. The Dallas Stars have the 14th. And the New York Rangers have the 15th overall pick. And if you're looking at where the Flyers are, 13th overall pick, this draft is going to be really weird because there weren't that many leagues that were playing. There weren't that many players to scout. And it's just
you have literally no idea who goes where.
Yeah, you have no idea. Really,
there isn't even a number one pick.
Right now, I think all projections say that. So,
or Beniers or
Power Beniers or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at the Flyers, you really don't. If they do keep the pick, you don't know what they're going to do with it. But me personally, I think I would rather them trade it and try to get something to help the roster for next season.
Yeah,
package that in the trade. I
could see them trading it depending on where they go, because I don't know if they'll go forward or D. That's one thing where I'm like, I'm not sure. I personally don't think they'll use it. I've said that for a while. If they do use it, I think they'll go defenseman. But every website that I've looked at so far, I've only looked at 3. Sportsnet, Craig Button, which is TSN, and then NHL and NBC has them taking it forward. Sportsnet has them taking Cole Sillinger. Craig Button has them taking Zachary. I'm definitely going to butcher this. It's L'Heu Reux. LaRoe, I think. LaRue, I'm not sure. And then it also, NHL and NBC has them taking William Eklund. So, yeah. They're all forwards, so I'm not too sure. Again, it's gonna be like a total crapshoot because nobody's gonna have any idea who they're taking. There's GMs out there that literally have no idea what they're gonna do or who takes what. So I think if the Flyers are going to try to go for somebody, say they go for a guy like Jones, maybe they try to use that pick to maybe trade for his rights. Like that, maybe kind of like a Kevin Hayes thing. They trade for his rights, and then they have straight one-on-one negotiations with him before anyone else. Or they wait, use the pick, or they could do whatever. They could use it to trade for a defenseman that's already on contract. They could try for rights. I'm not sure, but I personally do not think that they'll use the pick. I think that they're going to trade it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you right there. And for some teams that might be enticing with the pick, I'm trying to think of because I know like a team like Columbus, they have 3 first-round picks in this draft. So maybe, hey, you can entice Columbus with another first-round pick. Maybe you try to go out and get a guy like a Seth Jones, who who has been rumored to not want to re-sign in Columbus, who has a year left on his contract and may want to test the free agency market. So if you're trying to go after a guy like Seth Jones, first of all, if you are trading for him, you have to ensure that he is going to re-sign with your team. You don't want to waste all those packages for him to be a rental player, and then he hits free agents anyway. You don't want that to happen. If you're trading, you want to make sure that he re-signs with your team. And I feel like if you're trading for him, he has to have that package in suit already to re-sign as soon as he gets traded to another team. That's what I feel needs to happen with a guy like Seth Jones. And Chris, I know you have some thoughts on the Seth Jones talk too, so I want to get your 2 opinions in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily think Jones is a good defenseman. I'll say this right now. I think if you think that, just seriously stop watching hockey. I think Seth Jones is
all the people that discredit Seth Jones. It's all the people that are so into the analytics.
Oh, I know. That's
all the mathematicians, all the heavy analytical people.
Oh my god,
they trash Seth Jones.
It's like these people don't even watch hockey; they just look at numbers. That's honestly what their takes look like, and that's why I don't even really pay them any attention, because all it is just bullshit. Like, none of it is. It's not. I don't even think there's any team that solely uses analytics. I think there's like 2 teams that use them. I think I saw something the other day. It might have been like, I think Pierre McGuire said it. It was like Toronto and Edmonton are 2 teams that use it, not solely use it, but they use them. And they're 2 teams that have no success.
Edmonton uses analytics when they really have no one partnered up with McDavid or Draisaitl, and they have Mike Smith in the net.
Who the fuck knows? I'm gonna say this though. Jones would be fantastic.
Yes.
I think Jones would be better than Dougie Hamilton. Not by much, but I think Jones would be better than Dougie Hamilton. I still think Hamilton's a great player. That's the thing though, is like, I don't know what Jones wants. I think Philly would be good for Jones because it's one of them. I think that would make more sense than Hamilton, because he clearly doesn't want to be in Columbus. I think he wants to win. He's been on 2 teams that when he was there, naturally weren't really a winning team. They were kind of in the mix, like lower,
they were like
not necessarily
that tweener type of team.
Yeah, they were like the retooling kind of. Yeah, they were retooling. But like, when he's been with Columbus, he's had 1 playoff run, and that was in 2019 when they swept Tampa and they ended up going to the second round and lost in 6 to the Bruins. That was it.
In the years that Columbus was a quote unquote contender, Seth Jones was a nominee. He had many nominations for the Norris Trophy. He never got to the finalist range, but he had nominations to win the Norris Trophy. So that shows you how good Seth Jones can be when you actually put a good team around him.
Yeah.
I don't care what the analytics say about him. He's a good defenseman in this league.
I mean, the guy literally played like 62 minutes in a hockey game one time.
Yes.
Like, if that's not being relied on, I'm not really sure what is. And I think him with Provorov would be fantastic.
Yeah.
That would be unbelievable. He's like the younger Niskanen type. He's one of the guys you don't really have to tell him what to do. He'll just do it.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and it's just like you don't just have to go after Seth. Like, you can go after, just show like anyone, like go after anyone, and I'll be happy. Go after Seth Jones, go after Dougie Hamilton, go after an Ekholm or a Ryan Ellis. I will be very happy about that. If you just go out and get this like, I don't know, bimbo or idiot or something that like a not good defenseman, or just like a no name type of guy, and this is the guy that you add, or just like the average guy. Like, this is the guy that you're going to think that's going to fix our team.
Yeah.
Like, right now, the Flyers
that would be one of those like desperate moves, though. If they can't get anybody, it would be one of the moves that closer to the season where it's like, well, shit, we can't get anything, so let's just get this guy to get this guy. I don't think they're going to do that. I honestly think once expansion ends, literally once we hit July 22nd, they would. Like, the Flyers are going to be making a handful of moves, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of rumblings in the next handful of days before the draft, even during the draft and such.
Yeah, because you're going to have so many. You're going to have the expansion draft. There's going to be so many rumblings between those 2 type of events. Because with the expansion draft, you're going to have to worry about, okay, who is Seattle taking? Are the Flyers going to trade anyone to Seattle for them to take a player like a JVR or a Jake Voracek? And then once you get closer to the draft, are the Flyers going to trade their draft pick? Are they going to try to get someone to help their team? Are they going to keep the draft pick? There's so many other things. And necessarily, it doesn't happen on the first draft night. It can happen the day before the draft. It can happen, like, remember when the Jeff Carter and the Mike Richards trades happened? I think, didn't they happen the day of the draft? And they got that first round pick for Jeff Carter?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so something like that could happen. It can happen on day 2 of the draft. You just never know. But right now, this is probably the most important offseason for the Philadelphia. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen in the next 5 minutes. You never know.
It could have already happened.
You never know. Yeah, it could have already happened. Like, this is going to be the most important offseason for this team, probably since the last time they were in the basement of the league, and that was 06-07, where they lost the Patrick Kane draft lottery. And then and then they completely redid that team, and they went
That
to the
year
Eastern Conference
goes
Final the
from
next year.
Yeah, worst team in the league to the conference finals.
Conference finals where they lost to Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
So it has to be one of those type of off seasons where you have to make the roster better, and you're probably going to have to sacrifice maybe someone that's been on the roster for a little bit to get a really good player to come back for this team. So, and we got a question right here from Sean. How you doing, Sean? Haven't talked to you in a while. He said, what would Columbus be looking for in return for a guy like Seth Jones, Konechny in a huge pack? If you're looking for a guy like Seth Jones, in my opinion, a guy like Sanheim or Myers has to be included. They're going to have a guy in return that can start. You say both in return? Yeah, because if you're looking at that too.
But this is the thing, that's where
York should be ready for next season too.
Yeah. But that's the thing, if I'm the Flyers, I don't do it. If it's
you don't do it?
Sanheim and no. I don't think so, because I don't want to. If you already lost Niskanen, and you don't want to give up two of your young guys to go all out, because then you're adding a hole and adding a hole, and then you're making two more. You know what I mean? Like you're fixing your top two, but then you just took away your top four. You know what I mean? You just took away your second pair. That's your second pair right there. You know what I mean? Like you got half a pair and then you took away a whole pair. It's like, why would you do that? So that's where I'm the Flyers and the guy. I'm not sure. But I don't know about TK though. Like
I don't think they're gonna want Konechny in a package like that. I feel like if it was for something like for Patrick Laine, and I don't think they're gonna go after Laine at all. I think if Laine was somehow included in the deal, yes, and Travis Konechny is probably going to be the guy that comes up in that type of trade talk. But this is more of a type of you trade him a defenseman that's on your roster currently. You trade him a draft pick. Maybe you trade them a prospect that they can have. And I think right now a defenseman that might be more enticing on the roster currently for a team like Columbus might be a Travis Sanheim more than a guy like a Phil Myers. And if you do lose one of those guys, a guy like Cam York can step in, because I feel like Cam York is most likely going to push for a roster spot next year.
I think,
and he can. Yeah, exactly. And who knows? The Flyers maybe even go out in the free agency market and get a guy that can play in the top four for maybe like a guy like a Savard. You never know.
I'm going to ask you this, Amedeo. Do you think they'll re-sign Warren? Because I've seen this a lot over the last handful of days, and like, do they sign Morin? Do you think they'll sign Morin? I know there's a lot of people that ask the question. Like, I think they will, because I don't think the Flyers have nothing to lose. Like, if you can get Morin to re-sign at whatever deal he has now, it's not like he's gonna, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like there's any other team that's looking for him. Like, I think he's at the spot where it's like, if he can be a 6 or 7, sure. I see no reason. I think he's very good in the locker room. They love him. They love his attitude. So I don't think the Flyers have anything to lose if they do, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any issues if they bring back more, and he's not going to be an expansion contract. He's most likely just going to make a league minimum, and he's not going to be the guy that's on your defense. He's going to be that healthy scratch type of guy, but also, like you said, he's good for the locker room. The guys love him in there, and he brings that different type of energy maybe that a team needs in the locker room, because right now, with the way the team was last year, maybe they just need something different. They need something more just to ramp up that locker room even more. That's where you're going about like trying to improve this roster to where maybe you have to lose a piece that's been on this team for a while to get a different vibe in the locker room, and maybe it improves the team. And then we got a comment from Ben Simmons. Hey, Ben Simmons, thank you for joining the chat, and good on your triple-double yesterday in your clinching game against Washington. He wants to see the tat, Chris, so show Ben Simmons the tattoo.
I did show it in the middle. I was like this. I don't even know if you noticed.
Who knows? He probably
I literally sat there and I was like this for about like maybe 5-6 seconds, and then I put my arm down. I didn't want to interrupt you when you were talking. I just should put my arm up.
All good. I was not paying attention at all. And then we also got a comment from Ed saying that Eichel wants out, tells Buffalo he wants to be traded, doesn't know how long he's locked up for, though. Yeah, I think Jack Eichel, he's locked up for 6-7 more years on his contract at what was it, like $10+ million a season?
I think. I mean, I got my computer in front of me. I could just look it up.
Yeah, I think it all depends on what Buffalo does at the draft this year. If they don't draft a guy like Owen Power and they go after Berniers, and maybe that like shows a case in sign. Maybe, okay, they got us, since Berniers is a center, maybe that means they're going to trade Eichel. You never know, but you're just going to have to wait and see what happens at that point. I kind of do expect Eichel to get traded for some reason. I just have that gut feeling that
it's
he would
8
be.
years, $80 million with the Sabres.
Okay.
And that was in 2015.
Oh.
So
how many more years does he have left on that contract?
No, it was 18-19. He'll be a UFA in 26-27. But his base salary this year is only $2,500,000.
What's his cap hit?
His cap is 10, but he's a 7.5 signing bonus.
Yeah. So yeah. Like I said, I have that gut feeling he's eventually going to be traded out of Buffalo if they continue just to go down the path they are. It's weird. It's a weird situation in Buffalo. I feel bad for their fan base, but I do expect Eichel. Yeah, I do expect Eichel to eventually be out of Buffalo if it's in the near future or after next season or something like that. And we got famous YouTuber 69 saying trade or keep Moose. So I think the Flyers are just going to let Elliott walk. I don't think they're going to trade him because I don't see a team trading for a 35 plus year old goaltender's rights. I think they just let him walk in free agency. The Flyers are going to go after someone.
Retire, actually.
You think he's going to retire?
I think so. I mean, I think after the 500 game ceremony, I was like, and that was the last game of the season. I'm like, I think Moose is going to retire. Honestly,
I could see that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just don't see them bringing him back. I think they want to get
love him here if he was if they brought him back for player development or something. I could see that. Honestly, if it was for the goaltenders.
I think the Flyers
with Nick Schultz. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that actually.
I did an interview with Nick Schultz, who was Flyers player development coach, and I talked to him about a bunch of things that they do. And the one thing that he kind of said when the Flyers reached out to him was Fletcher reached out to him because he was the GM in Minnesota when Schultz was there, and he was also the GM that traded Schultz to Edmonton for a little bit. But again, I think Moose would be a good fit because it's a guy that obviously they know. They obviously like his reputation with the organization is good and everything. So definitely could see Moose doing that if he retires. Even if he doesn't, I don't think the Flyers are going to sign him. No. I think they're going to go a different route.
Yeah, I think they're going to go try to find a good 1B option for Carter Hart, like bringing a guy like a Bernier, bringing another guy like a Dreiger possibly, or one of those other goaltenders that are out in the market possibly. Who knows? Maybe they also trade for a goalie. You just never know.
Yeah, they could. I would love if they could try to get Grice from the Red Wings. I'd love that. I know his cap hit isn't high; it's 3.6, and that's not a lot. I mean, right now that's more money than what Hart's making, but. I think that would be fine. And I think that's your 1B if you're looking for it. Because, again, they don't necessarily need a guy on paper to be a 1B. If he can – I mean, Moose, you didn't think that was a 1B when you saw that on paper. But on the ice, it was like that was – Moose was fantastic last year, I thought. I even thought this past year he wasn't bad. Just the defense was so shit in front of both goalies. It was like you can't even look at – I don't even want to look – I haven't looked at any of our goalies' numbers since last season because it's just so irrelevant to me.
Yeah, just last season was just such a nightmare. We just want to forget about everything and try to look forward into the offseason and see what they do. But yeah, there's so many other options. And also in terms of Flyers, I guess signing a young goaltender to his entry-level contract, the Flyers signed one of their more recent goalie draft picks in Samuel Ersson to his entry level, and he's a highly touted goaltending prospect from the SHL. He's 21 years old. He's put up some very good numbers out there. And, hey, he's going to put some competition up down there in Lehigh Valley with guys like Ustamenko and guys like Sandstrom. So there's going to be some goaltending battles down there. And who knows, maybe one of those 3 goaltenders Chuck Fletcher can ship into a trade. Maybe, okay, we want to try to get a player to improve the roster. Here's a young goaltender that you might need for your franchise. So there's something there. That's why... I guess that's the benefit of having, goaltending prospects that have, the potential to be starters in the National Hockey League. That's the benefit there. So you never know what could happen with those 3 guys, but I like what Ersson has. I hope they do keep him. But hey, if he's a trade chip, but you never know. Never know what could happen. Chris, I want to get your thoughts on him.
I think Urson is a lot better than people realize. I know his numbers don't look great, but like I've talked about this with Alexander Appleyard. If you don't know Appleyard, highly, highly recommend you follow him. The guy knows so much about hockey over in Europe and everything, in Sweden and the KHL and all that stuff. Really big prospect guy. I've done some stuff with him. I did some World Juniors talk with him back when the tournament was around. I covered a couple of Cam York's games with Michigan with him. He's fantastic. And one thing he always mentioned to me with Urson is that Brinos's defense the past year was literally so bad. I mean, it was like an insult to dog shit. That's how bad it was. It was just terrible. And this guy was getting left out to dry every single night. And there was just so many plays where it was like his D this year was like the Flyers this year, but it's different when it's the Sweden, you know what I mean? And it's that's different.
If we're talking about like a team that has a terrible defense and is not like his numbers this past year for Brinos, he played 42 games, had a 2.96 goals against, and that's still, for as bad as their defense is, he's still a pretty good numbers.
Right. And his record was like 15-20 and something, right?
I think so. Yeah, his record was 16-26.
Okay, yeah. So right. I mean, he didn't necessarily have the best numbers, but the team's play in front of him was horrible. So that's why I kind of look at it like I don't really look at his numbers. I think he's great. He's a very athletic goalie. And he's one
I honestly think him and Fedotov from the KHL are probably the two top Flyers goaltending prospects above even Sandstrom and Ustimenko at this point. Even though I think Carter Hart is the guy for me, but I'm just saying that I think those two are probably the better goaltending prospects we have over the Sandstrom and Ustimenkos.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I've always liked Sandstrom. I always thought Urson was good, though. And one thing, since we're talking prospects, they did lose rights to Rodney Ross and Igor Zerduk. Ross was no surprise. I mean, that was kind of obvious. Igor Zerduk kind of sucks because he was really good and kind of had some injury problems. I've actually talked to him before. I've actually played Xbox with him, Zerduk, which was absolutely insane. And I like literally was like on the phone with him, like on FaceTime and everything. So that was really cool. That's something I'll never forget. But it just sucks because again, he battled injury for a while, and he was telling me that too. He said he had a really good start and everything, but he was kind of battling injury. So it's kind of where it was. And then obviously COVID happened too. So
yeah. At this point, you just wish the best of luck to those two guys and see if they can find other teams to find a way to get into the NHL. So I guess you could say good luck to those guys. And we got another question here from famous YouTuber saying, who do you think Seattle is taking from us? So the prey is a guy like JVR or Voracek. My expectation, I kind of think it's going to be Gostisbehere. That's just a gut feeling. But I hope it's a guy like a JVR or Voracek. And hey, maybe Chuck Fletcher entices a trade for Seattle for them to take a JVR or Voracek. But Chris, what do you think Seattle is going to do at the expansion draft in regards to the Flyers?
I think they take a defenseman.
You think?
Yeah, but if Voracek is there, then I think they take Jake. If he's not, I think they're going to take a D. Okay. It also depends on how they mold their team.
Yeah.
If you look at the way Vegas molded their team, they were a very big defensive team, and I could see them taking a guy like Hag, a guy like Braun. And that may not make a lot of sense, but they also have to hit a certain floor of the cap. So
yep.
You never necessarily know. I think the Flyers are just going to say, literally, this is our list. These are the players we're projecting. This is what you have to pick from. That's that. That's how the Flyers have to approach it.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it's going to be that difficult to get rid of a JVR or Voracek for Seattle, just because, like you said, they have to get to the base cap floor. So they're going to have to take on big contracts. And hey, JVR and Voracek, they are big contracts. So hey, if they take one of those guys, that helps the Flyers. And I don't mind it whatsoever. But that's a long way away. Honestly, is it even a long way away at this point? Isn't it in July, the expansion draft?
21st.
The end of July. So it's literally over a month and a half at this point, going to the expansion draft in the NHL draft. So at this point, it's going to be honestly a blink of an eye because we're currently in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and some games
there's some news here. Montreal forward Jake Evans is suspended 5 games for colliding with Jets star Mark Scheifele. Evans was suspended 5 games for colliding with Scheifele. Kidding.
Okay. Okay.
There's a person on Twitter.
I was going to question you for a second. What?
Their name is Bob Buttlicker, and it says Montreal forward Jake Evans is suspended 5 games for colliding with Jets star Mark Scheifele. Sources tell Bob Buttlicker.
Oh my god. Yeah, but to get into some of the playoff talk, first I want to get into, before we get into the travesty that is the Toronto Maple Leafs, I want to get into the Mark Scheifele situation with Evans, and that is just a ugly situation, and Scheifele was just suspended 4 games, so he would be able to come back if the Jets force it to a game 6, but that type of hit at that point in the game, Evans is going for the empty net. Yes, I can understand you want to try to defend an empty net goal. I can, but there's so many seconds left in the game. The route that Scheifele took to get to Evans at that, like how many miles did he skate in order to get to him?
If you watch the one angle that just zooms in on Scheifele, he skates the whole way down to hit him. That's the only thing he's looking at. And I don't look at it as a intent to injure. Do I think there was bad blood? Because I know there was somebody on Twitter was telling me that there was I guess he was maybe he was pissed off about something that happened prior in the game. I didn't watch the full game, so I can't really comment on that. I literally turned it on and saw Evans laying on the ice, and I didn't even know who it was at first. I was like, that's not Price, is it? Because I couldn't tell. There was a bunch of people around him. And I saw, his skate and shin pad. I'm like, who is that? And then I saw the play. I was like, holy shit. That was totally uncalled for. One was totally unnecessary. There was no need.
It was very unnecessary.
I get it if you want to prevent a goal, but I wouldn't necessarily prevent a empty net like that.
You don't run a country mile to run someone over to prevent a goal.
Yeah, I mean,
you just don't do that.
He could have tried to poke check or maybe even just try to cross check. He went full force into him. I know he did give up a couple steps, but he still pretty much went full force into him. It's not like he slowed down or anything. He just kind of stopped, moving his body real fast. He kind of glided into him and then went full force. And it wasn't really clean. But one thing I will say, though, is that if Evans got up and celebrated the goal, or maybe there was just a scrum, Scheifele wouldn't have got suspended.
Probably not.
100%. And there wouldn't have been this much of a backlash. It's only because, 1, he landed on his head, and 2, he didn't even move. He landed, he fell flat on his face, and then just laid there. Dropped his stick, arms were down, dude was out cold. He was a conked, completely conked out. And that's the only reason it got that much of a response that it did.
Yeah, I just, in that point of the game, I don't, it's what you said. I find that hit completely unnecessary.
There's no need for that in a late game like that.
There isn't.
There's no need.
I don't care if you think, oh, it's playoff hockey, it's going to be hard. You don't do that at the end of the game. The puck is going into the net. Scheifele's only intent at that point, it's not to stop the puck. The puck's going into the net. His intent is to hit the guy. His intent is to steamroll him. Maybe it's not to injure him, but it's to steamroll him. But you just don't do that at that late point of the game because, 1, you risk what just happened to Evans. And that's exactly what happened. And unfortunately, it did. And I hope everything he is okay with Evans at this point. But Scheifele, I think the NHL player safety, they did a good job on it. They suspended him 4 games. I know I know there's a overreaction point to where Scheifele should be suspended the rest of the series. He should be suspended the rest of the playoffs. I don't think it's going to be to that degree. It shouldn't be to that degree. I think the suspension is fine. I expect it to be 1 or 2 games just because player safety, the way it's been this year. But I think NHL player safety did a good job at this. I personally think they did. And like what Micah the Gamer says, should know better. Yeah, Mark Scheifele should know better. And Gallagher even said that in the post-game press conference. He knows Scheifele, and he knows Scheifele knows that was a stupid decision to do. So, yeah, you should never do that in regular season or playoffs. That's just that his intent was to steamroll Evans. And it's just yes, it is a confirmed 4 games. Player safety tweeted that out like I think an hour or so ago. So yes,
I
he's
saw
4
it
games.
first from Darren Dreger.
Yeah. Darren Dreger first tweeted it out. That's what he was hearing, and then it eventually turned into player safety tweeting it out. It was going to be a 4-game suspension, and the only way he comes back is that the Jets force a Game 6. Or if it does go to Game 6, I wouldn't say the Jets force it because it's only the first game of the series, but you know what I mean. Yes, I did see that.
I just saw it on Twitter. Yeah.
And I think Boston is still up 1-0 in their game against the Islanders.
Yeah, there's been like a lot of penalties in that game, hasn't there?
Yes, there has been.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the terms to getting off the Scheifele thing into the, I guess, the more entertaining subject to where we can get a good chuckles out of and also some misery because I had this team predicted to win the Cup this year, and I feel so.
I hate them. I absolutely hate them. Just let me rip into them. Just let me rip into them.
Wait. I feel bad. I feel bad for Tyson. I do. I feel so bad for Tyson, one of our co-hosts.
Yeah, we should have Tyson on here to talk about that.
I feel so bad for him, man. He's a Leafs fan growing up. He's been through so much misery, and he actually said this on the podcast with Charlie O'Connor, saying he believes that this is a team, and he's confident in saying, "I think this is a team that can compete for the Stanley Cup." And you just turn into the same old trash once again. It's just I feel so bad for him, but Leafs. You gotta be kidding me. You are up 3-1 in a series.
It is just
that is unacceptable.
It's a joke. And that's the thing. Like, if you listen to Steve Dangle's video, it's like he's like, I don't even know what to say.
I feel so bad for
what do
Steve
you
Dangle.
want him to say? You know what I mean? Like, what can you even say?
Like this, like his Game 6 recap was absolutely hilarious. He was absolutely pissed off. But Game 7, that man was just defeated. Like he didn't know what to say.
He's like, I'm not even mad. I'm just gonna have a couple beers. Like that's all he said.
Like he's been through this so many times at this point, to where I feel Maple Leafs fans are just used to this and accustomed to this.
He's made videos for 14 years,
and they've never been to the second round,
single playoff round.
God.
Like they've made the playoff what 6 times?
They made the
13,
since
16,
they made
17,
13,
18, 19, 20, and 21. They've made it every year since.
Yeah, and they haven't been to the second round since 2004, where Jeremy Roenick scored the overtime goal to send the Flyers to the Eastern Conference Finals. I hate to rub that in, but that's fact at that point. But
shit. If the Flyers run into that year, they probably would have steamrolled Calgary. So there you go. It's just I don't even know what to say about Toronto.
It's sad to the point where Jason Spezza was your best guy. Jason Spezza was your best producer.
Thornton was useless.
That's like for Martyr and Matthews to combine for one goal. Like those guys just
Martyr, Matthews, and Nylander combined for one shot halfway through that game.
Yes, Game 7 was
the big money. You let Willie Nylander literally walk all over you, and he didn't do jack squat in that Game 7 at all. At all. None of them did. Because it's like they're lifeless. When they get into a certain, it just seems like whenever the Leafs are in a Game 7 or any elimination game, like, and I know the thing is like, oh, the fourth game's the hardest game to win, whatever. But
you had 3 chances.
3 games were the worst 3 games they played.
Yes.
They didn't play.
I got it. Muzzin went down in game. Yes, Muzzin went down, and sadly that happened. And I think that the people would say like, oh, if they had Tavares, like Tavares, you were up 3-1 without Tavares.
Yeah,
that shouldn't be the cause.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I mean, you lost the first game with Tavares, but then you won
3 straight.
The next 3, right? So, like, what happens there? And that's the thing. It's like I don't know what they do because I know there's like. Do they keep Anderson?
I don't think they're keeping Anderson.
I don't know.
I think Campbell's the guy next year for them with the way he played.
I could see them trying to get somebody else.
That could also be a possibility too.
I mean, they have a hand. I know they still have Arundel, so that's another.
It's exactly what Steve Dangle said in his Game 7 recap. Like they had top end skill. They added the sandpaper. They added the grit. They had the best defensive core that they've had since they built this team.
Mm-hmm.
they had a goaltender that was actually playing up to their capabilities. Well, Jack Campbell was playing way above his head, but he was playing fantastic.
Yeah.
But you're at the point, like, what else? What went wrong?
I could see this if this was against a team like Boston or Tampa or something different. But I said it all year. That division was not good. That North Division is the worst division in the NHL right now.
No, it's not.
You put that Toronto team against anybody else. You put any of these teams that are playing right now in Winnipeg and Montreal against anyone else, they're going to get screwed.
If you put any of those teams up against Colorado, they are going to get their bodies turned inside out.
Oh my God. The Leafs played Montreal 10 times.
Yes.
And they beat them 7 of the 10.
Yes.
They literally said in the beginning of the series they're not playing Kotkaniemi or Caulfield because of experience.
And what does Kotkaniemi do when he gets slotted into the line?
Winner in Game 5. Kotkaniemi scored the overtime winner in Game 6. And
he scored a goal in the first game of the Jets series.
Yeah. And it's such a Montreal makes no fucking sense with some of the things they do. I'll say that right now. Like,
no, I understand you completely.
Yeah,
like I can understand. Yes, Montreal, the way they built their team is built for playoff hockey, but that idea is flawed because you have to make the playoffs. And if Montreal in a normal year was in a normal division in the Atlantic Division, when you have teams like Florida, when you have teams like Tampa Bay, when you have teams like Toronto, Boston, Montreal isn't licking the playoffs, let alone a wild card spot. They're not. Montreal is a below 500 team. They are. They got into the playoffs because of their thing. But hey, you got to give credit to Montreal because they know how to play it.
COVID. They made the playoffs because of COVID.
They did. And sadly, this team knows how to play in the playoffs. Like, that's what the team is built for.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think that idea is flawed of building your team because they're going to struggle through the regular season. That's what they did this year. That's what they did last year. But yeah, like you said, last year they only got into the playoffs because of COVID, and this year they got into the playoffs because of the weird format.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, you got to give credit where credit is due because the team knows how to pick it up in the playoffs. Guys like Suzuki, guys like Kotkaniemi, guys like Cole Caulfield, guys like Carey Price, he's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
Guys like Shea Weber, what Shea Weber did yesterday, stepping up for a guy like Evans, like, man. And like a guy like Corey Perry, for some people were counting Corey Perry out like he's a guy that's still contributing. Like their entire, like a guy like Tyler Toffoli too. Like, I haven't seen much of Tyler Toffoli throughout these playoffs, but still, he's eventually going to wake up if they get further into the playoffs. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Montreal gets to the conference finals and is one of those Final Four teams. But like I said, like what we also said, Chris, if any of these North teams go up against any of like the Colorado Avalanche, they go up against the Boston Bruins.
The winner of the Avs Knights series is going to play the winner of the Montreal Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So you can guarantee whatever team wins this round for Colorado Vegas is going to the Cup final. I don't see Winnipeg or Montreal having any sort of I think they'll have a chance because at that point it's like, well, we're in the conference final. Let's play our hearts out.
The only way one of those two teams beats a Vegas or a Colorado is if their goaltenders steal the entire series. If they know how to shut down McKinnon and Rantanen. Yeah, that too.
Because that's one thing Vegas did exceptionally well last night. Chandler Stevenson played McKinnon like Coots did on James Neal and Malkin in 2012, I swear to God. Like, Vegas should not have lost that game last night. That was a horrible call in overtime. I'll say that. It's one of those fucking ticky-tack / calls that's like,
you should be calling it. Yeah, you should be calling it a playoff overtime.
That should not be called in the playoffs whatsoever.
Oh, now it's 2-1 Carolina. Tampa scored.
Yeah, if Carolina doesn't win tonight, they're not winning the series.
They're not. No.
Is it me or is that series boring?
It's exciting for the top end talent that both teams have, but to me, I know you probably hear that and you probably think,
I know you probably feel like I'm nuts because I said that, because it's like, well, Carolina and Tampa Bay are like two of the best teams in the league, like they have great fan bases, whatever, but like, I think it might just be the way that they play. Like both games were 2-1, and no goalie really made a crazy save. It was one of those boring low-scoring hockey games. It wasn't a good low score. You know what I mean? And
I'll give it to a guy like Vasilevsky. He was facing over 50 plus shots combined in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
So Vasilevsky has been amazing for Tampa Bay in this series, but I do think, like you said, Chris, if Tampa Bay wins game 3 or 4, I don't see Carolina finding a way to come back. Maybe they'll push a game 6 or something like that, but I don't see Carolina doing that if Tampa Bay gets to the third win of their series. And also, we got a question from Micah saying that, how would that work if Vegas or Colorado play the Habs or the Jets? Would it be? I personally don't know how that's going to happen right now because they haven't announced anything yet with the Canadian government and if they're going to allow teams to cross back and forth from the border to play these playoff games. That's something that really needs to be decided on very soon because these series are going to be ending before the Winnipeg and the Montreal series does. So they need to figure it out soon, or if they force the Montreal Canadiens to go play in the US which probably would be unfair. Honestly, I do think this is also my gut feeling as well. I think they're going to let that rule slide so it lets them play back and forth, go back and forth between the borders because Montreal is starting to allow the limited number capacity of fans in their arena now. So I don't think they want to lose out on that type of profit either with the playoffs. So even with the Winnipeg Jets, I think they were allowing fans in their arena last night as well. So I don't think these teams are going to
what are they called? The frontline workers.
I know that's what Toronto allowed. I know Montreal's actually. Well, I think Montreal's allowing 2,500 fans in the arena.
Yeah. Did you see the ticket prices for Game 6? These 2 Leafs fans paid almost $5,000 for tickets
to watch them lose in overtime.
It's like taking out a quarter of a mortgage for 2 tickets.
Exactly. I would never do that.
Oh my god! And some of that is probably more than a car payment. That's insane.
And we got a comment here from Jason saying Joe Sakic has built a powerhouse in Colorado, just like Steve Yzerman built the Tampa Bay. Yeah. Joe Sakic has built a major powerhouse with the Colorado Avalanche, and this team is going to be probably winning a couple of cups during this run that they're going to be on soon. I can definitely see that with Colorado. And they're going to be a very fun team to watch. They make fast teams look slow. Vegas is a very fast team. They make Vegas look slow. That's just, and it's just Flyers, why can't you do that? Flyers, why can't you build that? Build a team that's going to be that good. Build a team that's going to make me pay money to go watch you. Because before we started this podcast, I was watching HW Radio, their podcast with Jimmy, great guy. He was on the podcast before for our trade deadlines recap, and he was talking about the same thing too. When you watch a bunch of these other teams, the Flyers right now, this is also kind of me going off of a tangent at the same time as well, but the Flyers right now don't have that player yet that makes you want to go there and pay money to see. I do think Carter Hart is eventually going to turn into that. But besides that, Claude Giroux, maybe in when he was in his prime, 2012, 2013, 14, when he was playing that type of hockey, he was much watched TV. He was much watched television. He was a must-pay ticket. But right now, Claude Giroux, past his prime, he's still a very good player, but he's not a player that you would go all out to spend your money to find. Jake Voracek, past his prime, he's in his 30s. He isn't the same player that he used to be. Still a good player in his league, but not a player that you're going to go out and spend your money for. Right now, the Flyers don't have that type of player on their team. They don't have I know they were talking about terms of generational, not a generational, just a player that's going to just be that star night in and night out, be that face of the team. And right now, the Flyers just don't have that guy yet. I think they're eventually going to get one, but that's just me getting my hopes up.
I mean, not every team needs that to win a cup, though. There's been teams that have won cups that haven't had that one guy. They've had guys that have played really good, but that was it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm
not saying that's
off the top of my head, but the 04 Lightning, who is that guy you look at to be
I guess
that.
St. Louis and Valcavier.
I guess.
Yeah, they had those guys.
Right. But that's the thing. It's like that comes from them in the playoffs. And I know it's like, well, the last handful of years you've seen, like St. Louis is a perfect one in 2019. The Blues did not have that one guy that's like crazy generational talent like McDavid and McKinnon. You know what I mean? They had all those guys. They've had that core for a long time. Washington had that core for a long time. Tampa Bay's had that core for a long time. Pittsburgh, right? They're not just going to, after one fucking season, say, oh, now that, we didn't win this year, let's just get rid of everybody. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And that's why we think that most of the stuff that we see on here is bullshit. Because all of these teams took a long time to win. It is not. Did you seriously think that the Flyers, and I know it sounds crazy to say it now because we all thought what happened, but like, if you think about it, did we really all sit here and think that the Flyers would win the Stanley Cup after essentially a whole decade at that point of miss the playoffs, make the playoffs, miss the playoffs, make the playoffs? Do we really think that would happen? It could, but it probably won't because they don't know. Like, you have to lose first before you can win. And I think we're seeing that with the Flyers, right? But I understand why everybody gets so pissed because it's been so fucking long. And we've sat here and been like, well, this is our year. And it's like all of everything that happened just kind of blew up in our face. You know what I mean? So that's why I understand why everybody's so aggravated. But this is why me and Yuri started to do Don't Panic. This is kind of why we did this, was to kind of talk about this stuff. And again, I think it's just there's a lot of things that people miss with the Flyers that aren't there. And I think it's, the game's changed and stuff like that. So I don't know. But again, I don't necessarily think the Flyers need that crazy superstar. I think if everything works right and they win the Stanley Cup, then they win the Stanley Cup. I know there's going to be people that complain about, listen, dude, I remember one time this year there was somebody complaining about the Flyers scored on a 3-on-1 and the person complained about the guy who passed the puck that he didn't shoot. They scored on it, but he complained that Farabee passed it and didn't shoot, but they scored on the play. So I guess that's just how it is sometimes.
Yeah, like those ticky-tacky things are just ridiculous if you're going to complain about something like that. But yeah, I know like we're going to wrap this up in a couple of minutes, but like, yeah, I know, Chris, because you've been only a fan for like so little. You've been a fan since the lockout season, and I still question this to this day how you became a fan of this goddamn team from a lockout shortened season when they were at the beginning of the mediocrity at that point. But like I somehow pray for your sanity then how you became a fan. But it's just been the same goddamn team for so long. And for me, growing up, I was born in 98. Yeah, I haven't been on this earth that long. And witnessing the Flyers, I really haven't just like seen a team that's just a perennial contender year after year after year, like the team that they were in the 80s, the team that they were in the late 90s and the early 2000s. They were perennial cup contenders, all of those. But ever since, when I was a kid, yeah, they were in the playoffs in 07, 08. They were in the playoffs in 08, 09. They went to the Stanley Cup final in 2010.
Yeah, but you've seen that, though. I've never seen that.
I know.
That's why I think like this, because I've never seen it. I have no idea what it feels like. I cried after they beat Montreal. You understand how fucking weird that is? You know what I mean? I cried after they won the first round. That's something where it's like, oh, cool, we won the first round. You know what I mean? I cried.
Yeah. And because I've experienced the Cup in 2010, even though they lost. I've seen the Phillies been to 2 World Series and won of them at least.
I've seen the Phillies win the World Series.
I've seen the Eagles win the Super Bowl, and pray to God, hopefully that, in regards to this video, hopefully the Sixers win the championship this year. I
hope so, dude.
And hopefully they do, and hopefully, I know what the Embiid thing is worrying me with his meniscus, but hopefully they do pull it out. Seriously, I just I want to have that feeling for Flyers hockey again. I want to just to know my team is going to be a contender, to know my team has a chance to win the cup, because it's been shit for a decade. It sucks, and I hate it.
Yep.
Oh, God. And like when I see like some of these teams out there that they just build teams and they become contenders, I'm just like, come on. Come on, Flyers. Just do that. Just be good for once. Like, be something that I believe you can be.
And the day that they will be good is going to be one of the best days of our lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That's why it's so fun, because we have no idea when it's going to come.
And I guess
torture.
to one question to end this off. And I'm not sure if we ever brought this question up before. I know I've talked to one of my buddies about this before, and he brought this up on his show. But the question was that, like, there's two questions to this, or two scenarios. Would you, over a 10-year span, would you rather have a guaranteed championship, but you don't know when you're going to win it, and then in between that or following that champ or before that, it's just constant mediocrity, but you're guaranteed at least one championship? Or the other scenario is you have 10 straight years of constantly success, of being a contender, but a championship is not guaranteed. You might win the championship, but it's not guaranteed. Would you rather have the one scenario? Tampa Bay just tied it, but would you rather have? You would rather have
them be because you're guaranteed then.
Yeah, I'd rather.
If that scenario is that you're guaranteed, sure.
Yeah.
If I have to wait, I have to wait.
Yeah, I'd rather have that. And if people that were listening in the comments section before we end this off, if you like, what are your answers to that question? Would you rather have the guaranteed cup and then mediocrity? Either you don't know when the cup's going to happen, but it's guaranteed, or would you rather have the 10 straight years of success, but the cup's not guaranteed? So if people are going to answer in the comment section before we end this little episode off, I see Renee's going off again with his with the former Flyers players from the olden days. Always love that when he spans the comment section, but I don't think anyone's mentioning that answer in the we got Micah saying the first answer, so yeah, Micah's got the same as us, going with the guaranteed cup at least. Yeah, same thing with Cliff with the cup. Ben Simmons and Joel Fairmine. Do you have the do you have an answer?
Right there on Hatcher. Holy shit.
I don't know why they're talking going off.
I've just been looking at it. And I'm like, what the fuck are these guys talking about?
And Renee even says going for the guaranteed cup. I
mean, seriously, I want to win a Stanley Cup. I don't necessarily care when it is, how it's done, what needs to happen.
I want it. I just want
it. It has to happen. I just can't.
Yes. Yeah. And even a late bloomer and Steven saying he wants the cup too. So
because it's literally like, would you rather be the Flyers or the Capitals? That's what it is. Would you rather be the Flyers or the Capitals? It's essentially that thing right there.
And you got Joel saying they're planning their trip to Montreal. But then they did answer saying the guaranteed cup is what they would go with for their questions.
There you go.
And then we got Micah saying, in the next 3 years, hopefully, I want to see them win the cup before he dies. But hopefully it doesn't get to that extent. But yes, hopefully they win a cup. Yeah, basically everyone has the same mindset. The guaranteed cup is probably the obvious answer you do take with those two options.
Because it's been so long. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah. Definitely. And I'd say that answer for any of the Philadelphia teams, with the Phillies, with the Sixers, with the Eagles. I'd rather have that guaranteed championship.
I'd like to see some October baseball. I mean, Christ.
Yeah. I haven't seen seriously, I haven't seen Phillies playoff baseball since 2011.
I've never seen it, so there you go.
Yeah.
I've watched it. Do I remember it? No.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's what Toronto fans would be saying too. They just want that guaranteed cup. They probably don't care about the mediocrity after.
Perfect answer right there. 5 years of Sabres hockey to win a cup. Sure.
Yeah.
We've seen a little
same thing with Cup all the way. Ask Carolina fans. One cup many years out of the playoffs, and now they're good. But that team was a legend when they won their first cup. The same thing with the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, I mean the Canes were all right. I mean they made it in 2002, like they were okay, and then they were kind of weren't they kind of like in the middle for a few years there, and then they won.
I think they won the cup. I think they made the play. I don't think they made the playoffs the year after. I think they they went to the conference finals, I think, in in 09 or something like that. And since then, they didn't make the playoffs after that. And then so many years before, and then a couple of years ago when they went to the conference finals and lost to Boston in 2019. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So it's, you see how deprived we are of championships in the city of Philadelphia. Oh, God. Hopefully it does happen, but this is going to do it for this episode of the Florida Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And for people who joined us in late or just didn't tune in at all, it's always going to be on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast at. Don't forget to check out our different social media pages. On Twitter, for me, Amedeo Grassia 98. My YouTube is TTP Sports. For Chris, his Twitter is _Chris Maher, and his YouTube channel is Flyers Fan Mania 93. And also, don't forget to check out the Painted Lines wherever you're at on their different social media pages. Subscribe to them on YouTube. Definitely don't forget to check them out. Their links will be down in the description of this video below. And this one last comment from Steven saying, seen too many almost in the playoffs, including Game 6 in 87. Yeah, man, it's been a while. It's definitely been a while. So thank you, everyone, for joining this episode of the Florida Podcast. We'll see you next time. And after that, we'll see how the playoffs have progressed. So, everyone, we will see you next time.